Hi there, I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this is going to be the rapid fire book tag. I was tagged by Aliens, Clones, Airships, and I will link to their video below. And this tag was created by Girl Reading, and I will link to her channel below as well. Because it's rapid fire, I haven't prepared anything, so we'll see how this goes. Question number 1, ebook or physical book? I think ebooks are a lot easier to deal with, although with physical books you have less of a concern of dropping hardware in the bath if you are reading in the bath, or dropping it on the floor at the gym. So it really depends on context, but I like that ebooks don't take up space. So they're easier to take when you're traveling, and you don't have to deal with packing them up when you move, which is something that's on my mind lately. Okay, that wasn't a rapid answer. Let's try to improve on that. Question 2, paperback or hardback? Probably paperback because they're lighter weight and they take up less space. Online or in-store book shopping? I feel like I've lost all of my romantic feelings for in-store book shopping, so I'm going to say online, because you can get everything, there's all the convenience, and you don't have to deal with hauling stuff around. I mean, there is something nice about going to especially used bookstores, and I do enjoy that, but the ease of shopping online is just so convenient. Next question, trilogies or series? Frankly, I'd prefer neither, but I'll go with trilogies because at least it has an end point. I feel like too many series are endless, and I dislike when something that could stand on its own ends up becoming a franchise. Next question, heroes or villains? Why does it have to be one or the other? What about people just living their lives and being morally complicated? But let's take villains, because I think if you're going to do something that's as stark as that, might as well go with the bad guys. The next question is a book that you want everyone to read. And I say this all the time, but I want everyone to read Kacel Odoiker's The Quiet Violence of Dreams, which is a meditation on being young in post-apartheid Cape Town. Next question is recommend an underrated book. And I don't necessarily think that this is underrated, but I do wish that more people were reading. And I don't think this was underrated because it was well received, but I wish more people had been reading The Midnighter when it was coming out, because it only ran for a year, and I think if it had better sales as individual issues, it would have continued on. It did sell enough in the trades that they ended up doing the sequel, Midnighter Apollo, which is also fantastic. But that's definitely a series that I feel like I don't see enough people talking about. Genuinely, those are some of my favorite superhero books of the past 10 years. Now, obviously not everyone likes superheroes, but if you do like the grittier side of superheroes, I don't think you can go wrong with that. It's genuinely some of the best stuff in that genre that's come out recently, and I don't understand why the sales weren't better on it. I mean, I do in some ways, but come on. Yeah, I mean, even this month when a lot of people are doing Pride-related reading, I don't see people picking that up, and thematically that would be completely in line with that, and even so. Anyway, the next question is the last book that you finished. I think the last book that I finished was John Boyne's Stay Where You Are and Then Leave, which is a kid's book about a boy trying to figure out what's happened to his father, who was in a shell shock hospital during the First World War, which is quite well done. I was impressed by it, and I don't always like John Boyne's writing. Next question is the weirdest thing you've ever used as a bookmark. I think I used part of the box from a light bulb for a bookmark once. I guess, I don't know how weird that is, but that's probably about that. Used books, yes or no? Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, how do you get anything that's out of print? That's silly. Next question is top 3 favorite genres. I don't necessarily have favorite genres. I definitely like literary fiction that's set in the First World War, and I like sort of grim-dark fantasy. And I like grim superhero books, but none of those are really genres, they're kind of subgenres, but I'll go with that. Borrow or buy? Definitely borrow. Despite all the books that are behind me, I read the vast majority of books that I read are from the library, and I try to only buy things that I actually want to reread, although occasionally I've gotten things because they were on sale and I couldn't pass up a good deal, but I'm trying not to do that because you just end up with so much stuff. And I'm not a minimalist, obviously, but I am frustrated with how much stuff I have. Okay. Characters or plot? Frankly, neither. I think I care more about style and creativity than characters or plot. Obviously, if something is very plot-driven or very character-driven, then that takes precedence, but I would rather see creativity than necessarily a coherent plot or a particular character style. So, none of the above, really. Long or short books? It really depends what the goal is. I think a lot of plot-driven books are better if they're longer because that's the driving force. But that said, I think a lot of longer books really needed an editor. So in general, I would say short, but that's not a universal choice. I'm not doing a very good job of doing this rapidly, but okay. Long or short chapters? I don't really care. I don't tend to notice where the chapters start or end, so. Name the first 3 books that you think of. World of Wonders, The Manticore, and Fifth Business. Those are Robertson Davies' Deptford cycle novels. Books that make you laugh or cry. Well, the other day at the dog park, somebody made a reference to ferns, and we started having a conversation about where the red fern grows. And it was funny because we had, I think, of the 10 of us or so who were there were at least 5 different nationalities. We had an age range of about 28 to 75, and everybody had read Where the Red Fern Grows, and everybody had cried during it. So that would be it. Next question, our world or fictional worlds? Either one, no preference. I like realism, but I also like science fiction and fantasy, so whatever. Audiobooks, yes or no? I think audiobooks are the superior choice for memoirs when they are read by the author. But other than that, I can take them or leave them. For example, right now, because the temperature has hit a certain high point, I no longer walk my dog to the dog park, I drive him, and because of that, I hardly listen to any audiobooks, because that is when I listen to them. So, yeah, depends on the context, I guess. But in general, I prefer to read because I read faster than the narrators narrate. I know some people will listen to them on a faster speed, but as far as I'm concerned, that's missing out on the performance element, and if you're not going to pay attention to the performance element, I don't see the point, because I feel like that's part of what you're getting in an audiobook. So, I don't know. The next question, do you ever judge a book by its cover? Yes. The whole reason that I picked up Brian McClellan's Powder Mage series originally, and I've just picked up the second book in his new series now, is because these covers made it clear that this was flintlock fantasy. And I'm more interested in that than I am in high fantasy these days, and I wouldn't have picked it up if the covers didn't look like that. Book to movie or book to TV adaptations? It really depends on the book. I think a lot of thrillers and more action-driven novels work better, and a lot of memoirs work better as films. I think a lot of political fiction and or quest-driven fantasy type stories do better as TV series, so it really depends. I'm really terrible at this tag. I think you're just supposed to pick one or the other, but that's not happening. Next question, a movie or TV show that you preferred to its book? I say this all the time, but The Hunt for Red October. I did enjoy the book, but the movie is a much better movie than the book is a piece of writing. Also Patriot Games. And the final question is series or standalones? Which I think I kind of answered earlier, but standalones, because you should have a good reason for a series, and I feel like most people who are writing series don't have a good reason other than sales. Which, I mean, fair enough, but no, write a standalone, come on. Anyway, I think that is the last question. So, this tag has been around for 2 years. I remember this going around when I first joined BookTube, so I'm almost hesitant to tag anyone, but what I will say is, if you have started your channel within the last year, and you haven't been tagged to do this yet, consider yourself tagged. That's it for now. Ciao.